Life isn't only black and white. Somewhere in the grey lies the truth, where perspectives collide and stories connect. Welcome to the Black, White and Grey podcast. Let's have a conversation.
Let's have a conversation.
Let's have a conversation.
Connor, we've got you here. We're going to have a conversation about lots of things. We could have a conversation about your background.
Yep.
You've got a PhD.
Who the hell is Connor?
Who the hell is Connor?
Who the hell is Connor?
Yeah, who the hell is Connor? I wear many hats at the moment. I must admit, I'm still trying to work that one out myself. But I guess at the moment, the primary Connor is a PhD candidate. Don't yet have a PhD. I'm about 9-10 months off of that. Hopefully, fingers crossed. So it's about a 3.5-year program. And I'm coming towards that final year now. So I have a PhD, or doing a PhD in planetary science. And I work at a fantastic place called the Mullard Space Science Laboratory, which is a department of UCL. And it looks like something out of the X-Men. It's a house down in Surrey, deep into the countryside, where we actually build components for space missions, NASA, European Space Agency missions,
wow.
and different things like that, which is quite cool. And you wouldn't think that this stuff goes on there from the outside. So I'm based down there once a week, and my research is focused on improving the interpretations of data that we get back from Mars currently, and hopefully in the future with sample returns as well. I have a geology background, so I'm much more of a field scientist. I tend to go out and collect samples or analyze in situ, and I've tied that in with a bit of astrobiology this year, which is tends to be the focus of a lot of the missions that go to Mars. Whether it's the Curiosity rover, NASA's Curiosity rover, or Perseverance, the more recent one, they all have a kind of a search for life component, and that seems to be what really engages the public, right? And you're spending public money after all. But of course, it's also really important.
Do you know roughly how much money of the public money that goes into research in the UK, for instance?
No, it's a large figure. I can tell you roughly how much went to go and build the Perseverance rover, which went. So I was speaking about this actually a little while ago. It was something around 20 billion that went to produce that one rover, and it was.
Wow.
I'm not going to get that figure exact, but it was comparable. I think it was about 2 million or 2 billion more than the price that they'd spent on the bomber that they used to go and bomb. It's the B-2 bomber, right? Yeah. So really close comparison. And I was actually making this comparison because I think they have 20 of those bombers in the fleet. Just imagine what we could have done with 20 Perseverance rovers on the Martian surface instead.
Hang on a minute.
Yeah.
They spent 20 billion to a place we might never go.
Well, we've been going for tens of years, in fact.
No, I'm talking like us as humans. Have we been up there?
No, and it's certainly a plan for some people. But I think whether we should be going in person is something that's worth discussing. I think we've been sending robots or rovers for the last 10, 20, 30, 40 years, and they'll be bringing back good science. And I think that science is valuable in itself, whether we choose to go there as humans or not.
Me and Ed, hold on, before you drop, but me and Ed's been going back and forth, like show every other show.
Yeah, this is
So
great.
what you're trying to tell me is the Earth ain't flat?
Stop!
We predicted this.
He was warned about that.
We got to have a conversation.
Yeah, I mean,
there's people out there that do believe that. So
I hate to break it to you, but from what I'm seeing, it's probably rather round or even a bit more oblong shape. Yeah, you probably heard that one before. It's more likely to be square than it is flat.
Yeah, go for it.
So how long do you think it will take for humans to be able to actually achieve that goal, to go to Mars? Just because Trump stated in January this year that he would he pledged that astronauts would plant a flag on Mars. Do you think that's something that is feasible?
Yeah, I love this question. because you hear so many differing opinions on it, especially since you've seen the privatization of space and what that's really done in terms of how quickly we've been able to get up to space and to launch. It's really changed, it's revolutionized that industry. But what it's meant is that the only people that really have a chance of achieving it in those short time frames, 10, 20 years, are the private sector. And they do not have the same goals or moral constraints that public organizations have had when it comes to exploring other planets, which is definitely something you have to consider. I think the timelines of 10, 20 years, I've always been a bit of a pessimist with this. Where I work, we build the PanCam. It's the camera that's going on the next European Space Agency rover. And this mission is being in...
When you say PanCam, so is that streaming high definition video footage?
Yeah, it does a lot of things actually. So it's I'll remember not to lose track of this thread, but it stands for panoramic camera, and it's the eyes of the rover. And so you've got two wide angle cameras here with filter wheels in them, which allow us to assess some of the geological the geology of the planet. And then you've got a high resolution camera here as well, and it's going to help us navigate, find sites of geological interest to go and investigate closer up with some of the other instruments. So that's being built at the Mullard Space Science Laboratory. And I forgot where I was going with that.
The question was whether humans were going to land on Mars
in a short space of time based on
in a
Trump.
reasonable
Yeah,
space of time.
that was right. Yeah. And this instrument and this mission has been in concept and planning for 25, 30 years. This one mission. And
It's interesting, though, right? Like, because the imperative is always, can we get them there and get them back safely?
Yeah.
Not, can we simply just land you on the face of Mars?
Why do we need to go?
well, that's a good question.
Why do we need to go?
Yeah. So there's, a lot of people, it's just outside of their interest, right? But I think there's this part of human nature that always has had the desire to explore the unknown, whether it was, first traveling around the world and realizing it was spherical, or first going to space, or first landing on the moon. It's just the next venture. It just takes so long to explore space because no matter how quick technology evolves on Earth, it's still a difficult feat in getting to Mars. And so with all of America's money and focus in the 60s, they got to the moon and went back.
But there's something slightly tragic about that exploration story, right? Because it's something that's always inspired and excited me. But even looking at the solar system, I remember seeing it's like 100 or 200,000 astronomical units, which is 100,000 times the distance between us and the sun, which is enormous, right? And that's so far beyond even just like where the planets that we know end. And so like even getting out of there, let alone the fact that just due to the speed of light and the constraints, we just can't go to the other side of the observable universe. Like we'll never catch it. It's just like, because I'm with you, I'm like, we should always be aspiring to that next step. If there's a question to be answered, we should be trying to answer it if we can. But then there's just ones that collapse and we go, maybe we just have to accept finitude here and go, well, we can't.
For now, isn't it? Because we're not there yet.
Unless we can break the rules of physics as we know them, I guess we're just like...
I think it's actually quite sad.
It sounded really sad.
You spend a lot of this time, and ever since I was young, I spent a lot of this time wondering what's out there. And I think the answer in some respects is, certain things you just probably can't know. And I think one of the most important ones is, are we alone in the universe? And there's been some amazing developments in exoplanet science. This is planets orbiting other stars. And these are hundreds of thousands of light years away. So that's the speed at which light travels. And what we're able to glean from the little bits of light that come back from these planets is amazing. But we have to run a lot of statistical models because we're making a lot of assumptions about that system. And so
is it about denoising the signal and trying to look for inference by essentially like going, there's a probability with this reflective pattern or this that it could be like this, and you're just using models to keep diffusing essentially
100%. Look, one of the most successful methods we've had is called of identifying these, called the transit method, and it's when you have a point of light, the sun, and then the planet passes in front of the star, and you see a slight drop in the light. And that was what was originally used to help identify that the planet existed. And since then it's evolved, because that light that's coming from the star passes through the potential atmosphere or lack of, and then carries on 100,000 years. And we're able to deduce certain signatures to try and infer a spectrum that gives us a bit more information about the types of chemicals that might be present in that atmosphere. Now, you're assuming properties of the star and its activity, and all stars are highly active and volatile, and that affects the light that you have to account for. You're assuming atmospheric models, which we don't know. Planets we really can't understand if they have.
But is that reasonable, right? Like, we assume that most chemistries are known based on, like, it starts off with the fusion of hydrogen, therefore the cascade that follows should be.
Like
hydrogen, etc., helium, blah, through to iron. Therefore, we could expect, unless there's chemistries that we don't know, and I can't think of why that would happen, but maybe.
Yeah, so we tend to use complex general circulation models, which we've developed from our own weather systems. But even on Earth, that we don't predict the weather so well here. And we can measure almost everything about this planet. And now we're trying to predict the weather on planets that have properties so far different than anything we could even conjure up in imagination. And we're trying to say, okay, this general circulation model is going to get it right. We have to assume there are going to be a lot of, there's a word for it, but there's going to be a lot of degeneracy in the model. That was the word. And there are a lot of assumptions that leads it to it being quite a big statistical problem. And so we can run this what's called a retrieval, where you try and match what you're observing with properties you've assumed about the system, and they can take quite a long time and use quite a lot of compute. And it's a best guess at the end of the point. And so it's coming a long way. And my point was the sad truth is we've had the James Webb Space Telescope reveal some great insights about certain systems, but it will always be too far to actually ever really know. And that's the thing that really bugs me about that field, because it's got so much promise. But I don't know if we would ever be able to say that we can quantify that life exists there, and because it doesn't matter if it does or not. Well, it does matter, but we definitely can't go there if it's 100,000 light years away. Not in we've been around for 200,000 years.
Not in any time soon.
But in Michael's point, I guess it's kind of it's always interesting to ask if we should be getting humans there, right? Like the one thing that I always think is funny is sending a probe or anything robotic or anything like instantiated with AI just always be easier than trying to get a human anywhere, because we're just so fragile, and obviously because who knows what radiation you get on these long journeys out in space. But it's like, yet we still fight to try and push ourselves into.
I don't know why though.
I guess you get a lot of interesting science off the back of it, which may stand to enhance life on Earth.
I suppose that's what I was thinking. I was going to ask, what have we achieved with the trips to Mars that have benefited us on Earth?
Well, certainly in the trips to space, there's been a lot of developments of certain technologies that we develop on the space station that have had applications for Earth. But with Mars in particular, it's a lot more about the science, and it's like understanding. We've got good evidence to suggest that around 3.6 to 4 billion years ago, Mars looked pretty much like Earth. Like it was warm, wet, and that's quite significant.
Wow.
There's evidence of flowing water.
That's right, yeah.
And, if that was the case, could life have evolved independently on another planet in our own solar system?
It's kind of like the search for the beginning of time, isn't it? Like how life was for the beginning of time for humans.
It's a curiosity endeavor, really.
Yeah, so it's funny because we see it as a story we're telling forward, but you're right, like it may be the fact that actually it's looking backwards, and what the backstory was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, people ask me, would you go? And it's an inhospitable place. I wouldn't want to go anywhere near it.
Have you seen how they've tweaked? Because they've, obviously over time, as the cameras are getting better on there, the more and more Earth-like in a way it looks, the more it looks like somewhere kind of barren on the face of Earth. And it's so haunting, actually, to look at it. Like, do you ever remember there was a video, maybe it was a video or it was a sound clip of them landing on Venus? Yeah. Maybe like a Russian craft in like the 70s or something. Yeah. And the noises that it made, but also at the same time, it kind of looked, I think, from what I remember, looked like less remarkable than I expected to do. Because also, I don't know what I was expecting. I mean, it is just a planet at the end of the day. But there's always that curiosity of like...
Because Mars was super red when we was growing up.
And now it just looks like I
said, now it just looks like almost like Earth, right?
Yeah.
With, like you said, barren. Like you said, it's been war-torn. And there's nothing left.
I think, you're right. We had, that people used to talk about the spiders on Mars or these canals, and they were really curious of whether there could be life on there. At least that they could see these features from a distance, and we still haven't found anything yet. And I certainly wouldn't want to rule anything out. But if there's any active life on there, which is I think quite unlikely, it's deep within the surface. What we're still looking for is evidence that life did exist at one point, and that's incredibly hard to find. It's worse than trying to look for a needle in a haystack, because the environment now, and for the last 3 billion years or so, has been so deleterious. And you've got ridiculously low pressure, low temperatures, and the radiation is ridiculous because there's no atmosphere. And so we're searching around on the surface for clues that, at least we know from some of the work I do at the lab as well, that these environments can be quite destructive for
how do you set the kind of retrieval chain of the data you're trying to get, right? So you may look in the atmosphere and go, are there any trace elements of some kind of respiration or kind of bacterial life or anything that would be kind of a credible start? But that will be in the atmosphere at writ large. So what's the expectation that you'd suddenly find like a microcosm of activity that wasn't something you could detect?
You've been referring to something that we might not recognise as life. That is,
well, as you say, it's like universally hostile, and then there may be a signature. You go, there's something in the atmosphere that would indicate that life is here somewhere. That should be kind of, hopefully you can get to kind of binary sense of that. But in a way, if it were to look completely dead, the chances that you're then going to go down to some crater or anything like seems, again, beyond like the frustration of looking for a needle in a haystack. So then what's guiding where you send a finite amount of resources, a finite distance that a rover can travel, and choosing a spot of interest?
Yeah, it's a good question. On Mars, we've got a few more options than just the atmosphere, right? Because, well, Mars is our closest neighbour. We can actually get there. And that changes a lot compared to, let's say we could get to a certain exoplanet, which is, let's say it was 100 light years away, and you're going to pick one. You're going to be going just on the atmospheric signature, right? We don't need to do that with Mars, because we can get there, even though it is expensive. And it's built up on a lot of different complex, sometimes mostly geological features. The first thing we want to look for when we are searching for maybe the past life was there is water, or evidence that there's been flowing water, because where we find life, we often find water on Earth, whether it's frozen or not. And so you want to look for somewhere that's had some incident of flowing water. And so if you look at a lot of the rovers that have gone, particularly Curiosity and Perseverance on NASA's side, they've gone to craters. So big craters where we think there would have been a standing body of water for a long period of time. And so, and we've got, Jezero crater, you've got evidence of inflow in water and outflowing. So we know water's moving around. We've got lovely geologic features that look like deltas. So if you've seen the Mississippi Delta or something like that, it's large fan type structure, and it really acts to concentrate a lot of at least on Earth, organics in that region. And we can map the sediments quite nicely, and then we can take a look at the sediments. Okay, so these are nice and fine with clays, and clays are meant to be good for absorbing organics. So we can do a lot more geological work and really target areas that we know, or at least on Earth, we would expect this to be a concentration of organics if it was to exist there. And so that's what these rovers have been doing, searching places which have been identified as being quite likely, it would be a habitable environment if it was on Earth, put it that way.
Connor, do you feel that it's naive of us to think that we can go to Mars at, I'm going to ask this question again, perhaps. Do you think it's naive of us to explore Mars at this point when we could be exploring ways of preventing or stopping climate change?
Yeah, it's a great question.
Because I don't feel at this point Mars will offer a fallback for us. And does that, how much of an implication is at the moment for us to invest in exploring
financially,
exploring space when we need to sort of still survive here, and stop potentially becoming like Mars in the future?
Well, I think it's really important that we don't view Mars as Earth 2.0. Right?
Yeah, or a fallback option
'cause
for us. It's not.
It's not a fallback option. And as I mentioned before, I wouldn't want to go near it with a barge pole. It's not a nice place at all to live, even if it was maybe for a really short period of time. And, you know, who wants to live in a terraformed Mars with, you know, no blue sky or no birds? And, you know, that's not an ideal. I don't think it's naive, and I think people will always want to explore. There's always money that we can put elsewhere, right? And if you look actually at what's happening in the US now with regards to funding for this type of research, it is being heavily slashed, almost up to 50%. But that money's going to, well, whatever Donald Trump is putting that towards, probably defense. So
definitely defense.
So, you know, we can speculate on whether it's better in defense or better in science and understanding, you know, the origin of life in the universe. But I get that that's not on the top of everyone's agenda. And there are always going to be seemingly more important issues on Earth
to preserve.
Well, is it mutually exclusive, right, Les? And if you were going to try and repatriate budget that we waste our money on, you know, you could stop people enjoying lots of luxuries. You could stop cruise ships being built, you know, whatever, right? We're not like a wartime economy trying to get to Mars. But also, I think what is interesting about saying don't see Mars as Earth 2.0 is actually what we potentially have is a project within our control. We evolved and are sort of reactive to the environment and the history that we've built. Whereas you go, here's somewhere we can't terraform to some capability, but also does that broaden the human consciousness to incorporate like if our kids grew up knowing there were people, even 100 people on Mars doing something, does that change like our kind of the way we see humanity? Yeah. Because we're very self-interested, right? We're so busy talking about the picket lines between countries.
Listening to you two, because that was you both seem inspired by space in that process.
What did you feel about it growing up? If at all, like maybe it just wasn't.
No. So from the films, you kind of get that buzz of what is out there, right? So you have that question, you get the curiosity, and I think my view potentially changed as I got older and got more theories about different things, and then it was just like, so we haven't been, like, humans haven't been to Mars in all the time that I've lived there. Yeah, what am I worried about that for? It may never happen. So let me just deal with the parameters that I can control.
But you're right, like there was a vested interest in a insignificant amount of films stoking interest in it, right? Like it became a continuous source of curiosity. So it's like you're obviously like, people want to think about it, and then when you make content about it, people want to watch that content and they feel a certain way about it. And I find it so interesting because the idea of space can be manipulated into lots of different stories. It can be no, you're good. It can be like psychological horror, it can be motivational, it can be like the savior, but it can be lots of things. But we aren't even really sure what our relationship with it is, because, you know, the idea that a bunch of aliens come out of nowhere terrifies us, but yet it won't stop us keep.
So here's the question to both of you, really. I think you first. What got you involved and stokes your curiosity in that process? And then why did you decide to go practically all the way?
Yeah.
I mean, your commitment to me is like what I should have done, but I didn't look at the UK as somewhere. It was always America. There was always like, is there anything happening in the UK? Not really. If I was in America, would I have pursued this? 100%. For me, it was, I'm getting my first telescope and I just stared at the moon for just 30, 40, 50. I get lost in it and I just stare at the face of that. But I can't believe there's this thing that's not, because it's like a starter pack for any kid. What was I interested in growing up? Sharks, dinosaurs, space. Yeah, and it was like, I don't know why kids are so obsessed with it, but that was me. My brother was like trains, planes, something else, and it's like that's just the way it was.
Yeah.
How about you, Connor?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds a bit cliche, doesn't it, to say, especially, I always talk to my supervisor about the interview process, and she says the amount of cover letters he reads, well, ever since I was young, I was interested in space. But you're totally right. It's one of the things that's inspired kids quite a lot. And I also have a similar story about a telescope, but it was like this £5 one from Woolworths, and I was like 6 and completely naive, and it had these planets on the
Stuck
cover.
on the front of it.
Yeah. I was like, it was just on the box. I was like, I'm going to get this home and I'm going to be able to see the planets that I've been reading about in these books all the
I
time.
think we all got knocked with that one.
Yeah. And I
sure.
remember looking through and seeing this pigeon on the house. I was like, that's not really what I thought. And then having books since I was young, I had this really basic book. I've still got it now. It's from the 90s. And it's got these pictures in. And I remember going through it and it's actually remarkable how much we have learned. I talk about space exploration being slow sometimes, but some of the stuff we've been able to do from the ground is remarkable, because I remember going through and asking. I think they've got a page about Pluto, and it said we know very little about it, and it's just very cold. And since then it's been declassified, and
hated them declassified.
Yeah.
Them. I know they've got their reasons, but I was like, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Connor, in terms of the exploration to Mars, why didn't we explore, or why haven't we as humans been to the moon again since the 1960s?
Well, we actually went back quite a few times. People
have we?
don't actually realise, but we obviously visited the first time everybody knows about, and then they actually visited. I'm going to get this number wrong, but it's like 3 or 4 times. Yeah. We took the
Apollo 18 or
rover there, yeah, and then we almost lost.
I guess the question was, it's more, I suppose, related to America, isn't it? That they haven't been there ever since. But all the other countries have explored then the moon.
No, just America.
Have they?
Yeah.
No, I saw somewhere.
When China landed a probe on the dark side of the moon, but humans, I guess
humans.
Exactly.
Hang on.
Sorry. Am I being misinformed then? Have humans returned to the moon? Since
the Apollo program, no.
Yeah, I'm referring just to humans for everyone's reference, but I'm not talking about robots. I'm talking about humans. Why haven't we, as humans, been to the moon since then?
That's a good question, though.
Well, I think for a long period of time, it was kind of like being there, done that, and since research has developed, they've realised that there is some more exciting things to go back to the moon for, and now you've got the Artemis program, which is NASA's current program, also under budgetary cuts now because of the strain that NASA is going through, which is hoping to be back there again. It starts with having this lunar gateway where they build this orbital station, then they're going to have a ground station, and it's going to be used as a base to help us get to Mars a bit easier. Because once you've overcome
to Mars or to the moon?
To the Mars. So they're going to use it as a base on the moon, which then they can launch missions to Mars from.
Okay.
The most expensive part about space travel is actually getting off the planet. Once you get off the planet, you don't need half as much energy. So in answer to your question, we are going back. It's just... I guess they spent so much money on that Apollo program, and it wasn't just the one; it was 3 or 4.
Is it more money than what we're doing at the moment with the 20 billion for?
400 billion or something?
I think it was crazy actually.
Yeah.
If you look at
in yesteryear's figures, obviously it's even more.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, and adjusted for inflation, I think it's crazy how much the America put towards that. But it was that I think that's where a lot of that enthusiasm come from. It was that real national pride, and when you think about it, we achieved that in, was it 69? And if in those days with those technologies, and sometimes it's quite easy to think that we haven't done so much since. I mean, getting to Mars is way harder.
But I think it falls in line with what you were saying earlier. It's not just about going to Mars. It's what it done for humans and pushed our mental capacity to go and research science and maths in a different way.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's where we're at today.
Well, it just seems like an obvious game, right? Like everybody talks about like tribalism now. And it's like, it seems that given the chance to be two sides of a picket fence, it's quite easy for us to just like degenerate into that. And that's, I think, probably the reason why like staying on planet Earth and just kind of continually like trying to resolve the issues here, it's like we seem to be getting only so far in the collaboration and cooperation. Like, one of the strangest things to me is you look at Antarctica and everybody goes, we don't own it. We just have this mutual pact that nobody exploits its resources, and just generally it's like this international territory. And similarly, space has that similar thing with the space station of like there's this weird collaboration between countries that are reasonably hostile to each other sometimes who cooperate.
So it's not owned by no one then, space.
This is what's so weird, right? It's because America was the only country, so like America and Russia, but
you
it was
can
like
buy
America.
land in space, by the way.
How could you buy land
in the
in
moon.
space?
In the moon.
Yeah, let's
Did you see
prospect. You used to get the leaflets, didn't you? And
Yeah,
people were like,
yeah.
you own like a meter.
Yeah, the moon.
which is
I
really-
don't know what will happen.
I researched the regulation because I had time.
What, you was going to buy some?
You were definitely going to buy it.
I was
weren't
going to
you?
buy some,
You was going to
yeah.
buy some?
Nice.
I'm pretty sure you
And-
probably even mentioned it to me at some point.
You definitely was going
Yeah.
to buy some.
And then I was checking
an
to
hour
see whether
thing.
it was actually
100%.
feasible and made sense, but actually it's not. It's just
It's just a fake
black.
certificate. It's
Yeah.
just people
I
exploiting
mean,
you.
kicking squatters off your land on the moon. Yeah,
Hang on, I've got to go back to the moon
Yeah, I
again.
wanted to be like,
Somebody's
you
camping
see
out.
that bit there?
That's mine.
That's
Get your
mine.
telescope out.
That's
Yeah.
mine. But I was always fascinated by the moon. I always loved the moon. I remember seeing the moon when I was maybe, I don't know, 2-3 years old, and I recall seeing it and how large it is. But I don't think my fascination for it is equal to yours, either Connor or Ed, when it comes to exploration. So then my next question will be, do you think that our resources should be allocated to potentially poverty and stop starvation rather
A
than
lot of political questions.
Yeah.
continue to do this?
What about mining asteroids? Maybe we can subpoena loads of space resources and rare
Because
earth
there's a lot of
metals and
minerals,
gold.
right?
Yeah, and apparently, correct me if I'm wrong,
He's
but
dodged that question completely, hasn't he?
He does that. I thought Ed was going to
I
come.
will learn from you.
We'll bring it back on talk.
I want Connor to answer this quiz.
But my understanding was the sediment forms like it's stratified differently because of the pressures of space. So actually, the access to resources is not like you have to dig really far into the asteroid. You can essentially just keep harvesting the surface and get the rare earth minerals. I might be wrong.
So we're just taking now.
Well, rather than
doing
people
what
in
we do.
in Central Africa going and getting rare earth minerals out of the ground, potentially if you could get them from space. I'm not saying it's easy.
But it's going to cost more, right? So we're going to spend
Exactly.
so much more
Yeah.
space.
I don't know who
It's
you're
gonna-
exploiting to do it.
It's going to cost a lot.
Bang on,
But let's
basically.
cost a
talk
lot.
about famine.
Let me I'll answer that point and then we can talk about
It's actually a good point on both sides. Like, what are you? It's the lesser of two evils, isn't it? You're either spending a shitload of money to go up, or you're utilising people.
wait,
who are
wait,
One, you know there's a finite amount of resources, which is planet Earth.
No, but
right? You
isn't-
know there are a finite number here. So you do ultimately want to expand the accessible resource base.
I thought we were trying to. My view is to preserve Earth instead of.
But we can't just preserve, right? There is no
constant
preservation because nothing
exploitation of
stays the
it.
same.
Yeah.
We're not in stasis.
I'm happy to be inquisitive and to expand and to evolve. The problem here is evolution, right? But can we evolve without harming the Earth the way we are doing at this point? So at this, we have evolved in terms of reducing the reduction of plastic, haven't we? We have evolved in understanding that actually we can try and explore potentially other resources rather than constantly going and extract from the ground for oil, and we are evolving and learning to actually
Well, like
we don't have
renewable
to be
energies and stuff like that, yeah.
exactly.
One of
Or
the biggest
even when we
disasters
used
was
to was it 1980s? We used to rely on mining and stuff. We are evolving, aren't we?
Well, we definitely still do
rely on
We still do it. We still do it. Like, we
It's
are
either
getting a bit
mined
better.
or it's grown, right?
Yeah.
just left the ozone layer's getting bigger.
When it comes to famine,
That was terrifying. You're right. Like everybody should have a basic right to be fed. But like if you look at any species that's ever existed, like we used to look at it in ecology at university, and it's like you give a chance of population to expand based on the availability of resources, it will, and that's why people go and cull deer in the highlands, because they go, there's too many of you, and you're just now causing a problem for yourself, whereby competition and starvation will kick in.
Yeah, but that's, I think a lot of that, I think we're going too far left and right, slightly. A lot of that is also political, because we overeat anyway.
Agreed. Like
So
the net calories of planet Earth is probably not the problem. It's the distribution at any given point in time of fresh water and calories, effective calories.
or even educating people in places that are currently.
I have a question for you, right? Like,
less
'cause
resourceful.
I think one of the sort of like not the socialist drives, but like the all-encompassing drives of like good, well-meaning is let's like zero out any requirement for quality of life, and everybody now enjoys like fair and equal resources, food, education, whatever.
Yeah.
What is that vision of planet Earth for you then?
But we continue to evolve.
But do we? I'm happy. I'm eating. I've got my.
I think there's lots of people that are currently exploring Earth are happy and eating, and it's just they are feeding their
We have a sense
inquisitive
of
nature.
superiority in the stasis straps, which is people going, I'm now going to buy nice things because, I'm a wealthy person who does wealthy things. So we're not equal. People go, I'll buy a yacht because they're like, well, what else?
I just thought that when it comes to space, even though it's becoming privatized, which you mentioned at the start, which is I think is a good thing. Then
What's becoming privatized? Space.
Exploration is becoming privatized, which is a good thing because then it's leaving the individuals and those companies, so those private businesses, to decide on how they wish to spend their money. But when it was actually done to the government, which is still, I suppose there's an element of responsibility there. I think in picking, there's a child going to be, there's starvation happening in a city somewhere, and there's can that money be distributed slightly better at that point in time? Not to say that it's not going to be, it's going to be better in the future. I'm just saying, or even can we invest slightly more on environmental changes that will better our day-to-day life? I mean, we all reproduce and have kids, and we're probably going to continue to reproduce it. It's not about preserving their life in the future.
Yeah,
but that is me being perhaps political at this point. Because I want to have more an understanding of whether our resources at this point, especially when we're going through a recession in the world at the moment, there's a reason why there are cuts in exploring, in exploration to Mars.
Yeah, but we can look at it in multiple ways. That same money that we're talking about to go to space, you can talk about it with war as well. Why is money being pumped into war? It's the same thing, isn't it?
Again, my sentiment is exactly the same. Why should we?
War is a funny one, especially with that figure I mentioned earlier.
We should
it's
defend
like,
ourselves, though.
20 times more what we spent on developing a whole Martian mission, and that is practically obsolete. They've used it like once or twice.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like that thing sits gathering dust.
Yes.
It's just worse.
Right, that's
what
it is.
That plane, isn't it? Was it? How many billions was it?
It was like, I don't know, 20
but you know what they'd argue, right? Is like it's like a peace coupon, right? It's like the threat of its existence is there. Like the nuclear program, it's like the threat of its existence is there to create peace, and it could be.
It's like having a dog, isn't it? And outside, or a threat to say, be aware of the dog.
20 million.
American hegemony is contingent on having the biggest dog. Yeah.
And the thing is, I used to be really anti-Trident and nuclear program, but when I was a bit younger anyway, and if you'd ask me now if you think we should abolish it, I probably wouldn't say yes.
Of course
even
not.
got all of that money that could be used elsewhere. I mean, how much is that? It's like in the trillions.
Yeah, but why?
Just because I think the world is seeming increasingly unstable now, and we're constantly having close flybys from Russian jets and the boats through our waters, and you just think, if we're not capable of protecting ourselves, just especially when we've seen how it unfolds in front of our eyes.
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about country-wise, like UK, America.
And Russia and
China and all that.
I think we've got to be in a position to have enough defence.
But this is interesting, right? It's
scary.
So take every country, and I think what sort of certainly was being duked out at the end of the 20th century was like the best operating system. And what we can agree on now is like there's a bunch of resources that stays the same. There's a bunch of operating systems which are countries, their values, where they spend their money, socialised healthcare. We put it into this. Only a couple of people can have the right system that we would ultimately want to proliferate around the whole planet. To be fair,
have we found a right system?
I don't think we have.
No.
But I think some people believe we should have this big sort of borderless world, and we should share, and maybe you're geographically unlucky, but we can repatriate resources to sort of dynamically shift and provide for everyone. Some people geographically are just in hostile environments, right? And it's that much harder to...
It sounds like this is purely a human problem.
It is a human problem, you're right. Because the planet, you're right.
We're talking about a pure human problem of humans choosing to say, I want some more.
Yeah, so the fairest thing for the planet would be to if we had no sense of adventure outside of the planet and no reason to be and no reason to create anything more than ourselves, then we would be hostile to the ambitions of the planet just existing.
Not, because if we look at, if you go, this is where you have to go so deep in history now. How and why did it start? The whole thing, and it is a history thing. It's years deep to where we're at now, this is the result. What we're getting today is the result of 100,000 years of problems.
Well, it's culture, it's organisation, it's
all of those things. It's a person's idea and their ideals of what they value in their set for their people, and so on and so forth. And this is where we're at today, is the outcome of all those years.
Well, I think that's why it's always interesting to test people's end state, right? The end state of their ambition. What is it? And maybe everybody has answers to that. But if people go, let's deal with Earth, then our end state is to reduce all harm to the planet, whatever it might be, make sure everybody's fed, but there's got to be like a set of objectives. And I think, again, if we take a look at the UK, I'm unclear sometimes what our objectives are for tax dollars, pounds, this, that, the other. And
an interesting one to that. That same question we could ask to each individual in this room, and we'll probably all have a different answer.
yeah,
Correct, yeah.
we should.
Should we though? Because then if you're tying it in with the countries and having this all borderless and seamless, we're supposed to, if we're all on the same page, then we shouldn't really have too much greed and wanting more. 'Cause
Right.
We're all on the same page.
So it'd be like akin to the commandments, right? What would actually be a fair and reasonable charter?
Why sometimes religion still provides a lot of structure for people, right? It's a
That's
good
great.
way to live, the best way to live your life. And, maybe if we were all prescribing to the same religion, it'd be all right, but
Or
people
will it?
don't. Yeah.
Or will it? Because there's good and evil in all religion.
Yeah.
So, or will it? And that's my point. Is it just the mankind thing that we're talking about and dealing with? And can we actually do anything about it? Because if you go spiritual, you'll believe that some people are born good and some people are born evil.
Well, I
Or
think
positive or
I
negative,
think,
or however you want to put it.
yeah, because at the very basis of it, right? Like it could be the tension between hope and nihilism, and I guess anything that's the antidote to nihilism, which could be space, it could be other stuff.
Yeah, optimism.
Allows a little bit of kind of upward gazing, and that sort of distracts you temporarily. I mean, we're now distracted by our phones to not be so combative with each other potentially, but arguably it's not the case. But it's just what would create the most alignment between all human objectives and positivity and collectivized problem solving, basically.
Yeah, I suppose so.
I thought like evolution would be collectively as humans. By now we would be able to learn to get on with each other a little bit more and be able to understand and respect. So I don't care about it's essentially including land, seas and whatever. I just feel like it's getting worse. I thought our humans in terms of value and respect has deteriorated. Do you guys disagree with that?
Maybe that's where space travel comes in as a real unifying factor in that, because
I love the way you pulled it back.
yeah,
I love it.
it's amazing when you think about all of these countries that are at war now, but in space and in the International Space Station, the Americans are talking to the Russians,
Yeah.
and they're talking to China. And
good.
in the political world down on Earth, everybody's fighting.
Yeah.
But in the scientific world, everybody's collaborating.
We need to
That's
get to
amazing.
the end goal. The end goal is common interest, right?
Yeah, and that's where I think maybe when you let's see Star Wars or any sci-fi film, and you've got we're more akin to humans, whether you're black, white, or you're Asian, than any other alien would be, right? And you remember watching those films and feel like everybody's in there, all these different aliens are in there, and there's a black human and a white human, and they're like brothers, right?
Yeah.
Where we fight amongst
Mankind,
ourselves,
yeah,
we've got
yeah.
nothing.
Mankind,
Yeah,
yeah.
we're
Mankind.
mankind, right?
So we need like a common enemy then.
It seems that way.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it
For us
seems
to
we
get on.
always need a poltergeist or like a...
Someone needs to be it.
Yeah, it's like a Punch and Judy show.
It
And
is that. Somebody needs to be either more powerful or less powerful than mankind
So
for us to say, yeah.
if we were to have a UFO come into Earth tomorrow, we all probably get on. It's like, China, what do you think we should do?
COVID's a prime example of that. Once COVID hit, we was all friends. The neighbour that you hated, we was all friends.
Yeah.
And it's that was the common enemy.
Yeah.
So
we were distracted instead of fighting each other. It's like, oh, we've got something else. Look, there's another.
You can die with
something.
that thing. That we
Yeah.
can
Something
see,
else for us to look
and we
at.
all became friends.
The Earth it was so peaceful during
So
COVID.
peaceful. I mean, you want to talk about something that's good for climate change, that people not being able to fly around the planet was, you just looked up in the skies, you're like, there's no
All
planes.
the animals
All
came.
It was all
Birds.
clear as
All
well.
the birds, yeah. All the
The
animals.
environment actually responded to it as well. The weather was so much better.
Doesn't it blow your mind that sometimes you walk around London and you're like, there's nobody here? I understand other people are not done.
amazing.
I've walked like a mile and a half and I've not seen anybody. How's nobody else had the same idea as one other
And
person?
the funny thing is, you walked a mile and a half.
Yeah, I walked across
and,
London.
and that's it. And there's things you've done during lockdown that you wouldn't do now. Like,
Yeah.
hour and a half, man. I mean, a mile and a half, I'm not doing that.
We get all our entertainment and all our distractions chosen for us now, whereas people got creative. Like people were like, how can we work within the constraints? And we did things
Bake
differently.
cakes. Everyone's baking.
Yeah.
So we know it can work, but we need a common enemy.
So
Yeah.
in terms of, as a last question for you, what, because you do the PhD and you're probably passionate about what you do and the fact of, hopefully you will never go to Mars.
He's already said that. I'm not
Already
going.
said, yeah.
I'm not going.
But what's the interest? If you're not going to go there, so why do you want to know so much about it?
I think for me, it was about contributing to something that
Love
I'd loved since I was young. And,
Love that.
whether it's something I end up pursuing far past the doctorate anyway, it's about contributing to something I've always been interested in and just doing my part. In terms of trying to help us understand something, you know.
That's phenomenal.
And I think, you know, by the time the PhD is done, I can say I will do that. As I say, whether I decide to pursue it any further or not, it's a really difficult landscape at the moment. I really feel for everyone in academia, because there's been some horrific cuts, and you've got people who are well-established scientists, far more advanced in their careers than me, are now left without jobs because of what's going on. And this is what happens, you know, when, you know, in politics, and I guess the environment's used to it. But yeah, contributing at the highest point I could, I think, and that was following it through there. And also it was just following my interests. You know, people always say that. I don't actually know if that's even that good advice, to be honest. You know, just follow your interests. But when I had that youth in me, I was like, you know, I just want to do
You're
something.
still very young.
Terrible advice. Terrible advice.
He's very young. But
Absolutely terrible advice.
yeah.
I was, you know, just follow something I was interested in. That's what I was doing until I got to this one. And here I am now.
And congratulations in achieving and getting this far in your
To
journey.
be fair, and like you've probably answered the question about poverty and climate change and the cuts, because they're making cuts anyway to move the money somewhere else. Anyway, so.
But it's because it needs to be reshuffled to something else. But
There's another problem to deal with. Right?
yeah, correct.
So
at this point,
technically there is.
Well,
cuts.
they do take it out of exploration, right?
Yeah.
Because you can. Like,
Yeah,
this
'cause
is
you
like,
can.
Yeah.
But from a limited exposure to the NHS, I know a lot of our money goes to there and is just set on fire.
Yes. Double.
That's what pains me the most.
Is it really?
It is literally set on fire. It doesn't mean they're not trying to do their best. It doesn't mean it's not an extremely complicated system, but it is bureaucratic. It's easier to think of as a political entity than a business entity. And with all due respect, loads of US software vendors are just melon balling the public funds, right? Like if we were taking that seriously about an objective to efficiency set, the UK would go, we'll provide the software to the NHS because we've actually got a vested interest in making it more efficient.
Yeah.
US vendors don't care. Use as much cloud computing as you want. I don't care. Some hospitals are using Windows 10 still, and there's like paying contracts to continually update their like Windows 10. Some are trying to use cutting edge AI. None of the systems can talk to each other because of privacy and this, that, the other. And so it's like, there's this worrying trend where this big money goes into a centralized system. The NHS at its best is incredible, but what's not okay is just the waste. Yeah. And I think we've got to have you're right, we've got to just have like a conversation that's broad, expansive, and has an agenda to consolidate spend in a responsible way.
Who's responsible for that?
Well, hopefully the people we vote. If we knew where our tax money was going, by like in Australia, where they line item where your taxes have gone.
that's good.
We'd be able to interrogate the balance sheet and go, man, this is pretty crazy.
Isn't it we're finding that out? I thought I got something sent through the door which broadly mentions the sector it's going to, or how much the government. It's basically just the government
I've
how
seen
they
that, the
spend.
percentage.
Yeah.
It's the spending, yeah.
But it's not necessarily in deep.
I think there's still like a lack of clarity on how money is spent, and so
because I think there's probably three objectives, right, that can exist within a country. It's like either I'm going to make money from some of the national GDP. So the country's generating this much prosperity. Either I can make it more efficient, or I can make money off people spending money with me. We can grow the GDP by dipping into the global economy and going, great, we're now winning business from Belgium, this, that, the other. Or we can expand the whole productivity base of planet Earth, and then the whole GDP of the whole globe is getting bigger. But that's the inherent tension we always face, right? And probably space exploration comes to sort of, can we broaden all of human productivity? And then there's these national interests where you're right, like you want to essentially bring people who are struggling up so they can be meaningful participants in the economy. And then you kind of got the sandwich layer in between where...
Yeah, then you give people a level of choice, the choice to explore and be more inquisitive. I think when you're hungry, you can't think of, I'm going to think about Mars, or I'm going to...
No, trying to work out what your next meal is, right?
Yeah,
That's
so
a really
this
good point.
is
It's a privilege, I
So
suppose,
when you're
yeah.
hungry, you're like, I just need to think about my next meal. What like Connor just stated. That is my point, is like enable those kids or those individuals to be able to have the option or the choice.
Or you get beat by your parents, but you got your telescope and you just go and look at them.
And then you look at another kid getting a beating across the street and you go, well...
My life ain't that bad. Who knows?
No, but it's a very real problem, and I've spoke about this before, but I've questioned even a privileged position to be able to follow it this far. I suppose now, as I get into my 30s, it's
young.
It's like, thank you. I feel the opposite, but I feel like the pressures of survival financially are becoming way more present, to the point where I'm starting to doubt whether this is a viable career anymore.
That's sad.
And it's true. And the world I grew up in. I was thinking about this the other day. I think I grew up in a family where I think our household income was about 30 to 35k. My mum, we had tax credits, and I never felt like I really struggled growing up. We didn't go out to many places, didn't have takeaway and things like this, but we had nice Christmases and birthdays. And I always thought, if that was like 35k one salary, then I could earn 45, 50k as a scientist doing what I love and I'd be happy. And then I realised that the way the world's changed in 10, 15 years since I was that young growing up on that, it's now like that, the 50k salary.
The social contract's changed.
Yeah.
And you talk about the lockup of money as well. I mean, if you talk about the arbitrary trebling, quadrupling of property prices, that hoovers up and makes liquid so much money, right? And it's just a strange supply and demand curve. So the best thing you do is level that so that all our money is not just being locked up in property.
There's a burst coming soon, apparently, isn't there?
What is there?
Apparently.
They've been saying that for a long time.
They have.
And then you go back on Rightmove and suddenly stuff's like 5% more expensive again.
Still going up.
Yeah.
But nobody's buying houses.
It depends which
Well, they'll drop the interest rates again this year, and I think you'll get another spike.
Yeah, you'll
It
get a
depends on the
spike.
price of property. It's like my property has an increase in value.
Hasn't.
No.
But this was like a 90s game, right? Like anybody could be like, you ask your parents, like, what did you do? Like, we bought a property and then we sat on it for a while and then we sold it and you're like, that's not a strategy. That's
It's also not, I don't think property will do what it's done for the 20s before.
It's so leveraged as well now.
Yeah, so leveraged, and I don't think there's just not as much demand because people can't afford it until much later. I think that's slowed houses. I don't think they will be as an investment what they have been in the past, but I don't think that they'll allow it to crash. But I also don't think it can inflate so much more because it's just become already outrageous.
At some point they've got to align it with the wages, right? Something's got to give.
Yeah, and it's so far from that. I think as an investment now, surely you would just take your £80,000 to £100,000 deposit and put it in stocks, which is going to perform way better, and then just accept rent. Look, if you have the asset, you've got the asset, but if you're not a boomer and sitting on a house, and then you've lost that chance now.
It's a terrible investment right now.
Yeah, it is actually not a great investment. As you say, since I've owned my house for 4 years, it hasn't increased much. I'm hoping that at the end of this year, with the interest rate drops, we might get a bit of a boost.
For sure.
But
as somebody who
something's happening.
Sits along, like, because I get the point you touch on there, right, is actually why not put your money in something that takes a hedge on potentially AI supremacy? So why not have exposure to Google, etc. As a sort of career that you may migrate into with commercial interest, does the AI sector interest you at all?
Yes. I'm not. I have some basic Python skills. I'm not a developer as such, but I'd like to see. I've been thinking about finance a lot, actually, and various aspects of that. I think the way I view AI is interesting. I feel like I've constantly seen myself thinking, what is going to be left? Anything quantitative now is gone, in my opinion, in the next 5 years.
Well, and qualitative is being turned into quantitative in the form of tokens, right? It's probabilistic associations between how you embed sentences and language into probabilistic meaning of like what's going to come after the next. So it's even that's being turned into something.
Yeah.
Facts.
Yeah. Even that is also under threat. We've talked before, lawyers and writing legal letters and things like this. Any type of quantitative, I think the hedge funds will all move to AI rather than paying £100,000 for quants. That was actually a lot of people from my lab moved out, physics PhD, get a job in a hedge fund as a quantitative. A quant, basically. And I just can't see how.
I think we should become plumbers now.
Yeah.
And electricians. And we had a discussion about that beforehand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was my shout.
I think I saw someone say
That's where the value is.
someone said like the smartest business to get into at the moment is to have a
Trade.
Trade,
where
yeah.
you have
And it's-
several
and
of
it's so
those
funny.
individuals working for you, and that's going to be extremely profitable.
I think
you
so.
will make still millions
I think
out
so.
of
I
it.
think it's hilarious because, it shouldn't have been, but it was typically looked down more blue collar jobs than white collar, right? And now all these
Absolutely.
white collar jobs are under threat, and you look around, and what the funny thing is, when I was a kid, before I decided I wanted to be a scientist, I come from more of a working class family, and so the only thing I could really dream of was I was told, "Oh, you want to be an electrician or a plumber? They earn good money," and this was back when that's.
Our parents knew. They're like,
And now it's like come
me.
full circle where it's like they might be the
You
only
probably
things
looked
that
at
you.
it with disdain. You was like, me, never. How dare you?
Well, I used to walk around saying it for a while, and then I started to dream a bit bigger, so to speak. But and now look where we are,
Sparky's the one. Be a Sparky.
Well, become a chef.
or in a business where you employ
Chef,
sparkies.
I could do a
People
chef.
got to eat.
Chef's a good one.
Chef is a good one.
That's a good one. And people like what I don't know if you watch those cooking shows, but always fascinates me is like how you feel about space. Some people feel about food.
Yes.
There's like, I just feel so passionate about it.
It's just passion, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you passionate about?
Gardening.
You know what? You're right. Like, I need to start selling that manual labour.
Well, you were going to say something. What were you going to say?
No, the
Space.
space dinosaurs, sharks.
Same as the kids.
Dinosaurs was one I was actually interested in.
You know when people used to just be like,
I love the
you know
dinosaurs.
when people used to be like, so what? And you're like, what do you mean so what?
Yeah.
And you're like, so what? And you're like, what? Your mind's not blown that like 30-meter long lizards were
Yeah.
walking around the thing, eating each other.
Eating
and you're
each
like,
other.
yeah, not bothered.
Yeah, dinosaurs done my night.
Although they're pulling a funny one with us now. They keep adding feathers to the
Yeah, I don't
pictures.
know.
Dinosaurs.
Yeah, we've wrong about all of this.
I don't know if dinosaurs are real now.
Yeah,
I'm not having
they
that.
stick a load of feathers on them. Like
Yeah.
T-Rex used to like basically look like a giant chicken. I'm like, I'm out.
Yeah, no, I'm not having it.
Give me the Jurassic Park all the way.
No, I do think the most the thing that interests me the most at the moment, I think, is AI and what the world would look like in the next 5-6 years. Because, space exploration moves so slow in comparison to what we've been witnessing in the last 5 years. It moves so much quicker than anything else I've been looking into, and I think the world is going to be a very different place. And I don't think we're going to see we talk about technology creating jobs, but it's always been automation has taken the lowest skilled jobs, so humans can do something more complex. And now we're seeing
I think we're running out of intellectual bandwidth. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think people
we're
are going like, well, we'll figure something else out. It's like,
It's
if
doing-
you're
it's doing
highly
thinking better than
creative
us,
and
isn't it?
abstract,
yeah,
where there's no data footprint for you, you probably have some time.
yeah.
But I agree. Like if you're leaving a data footprint and it's very self-similar to what other people are doing,
Yeah, and these were typically high. It's intelligence that we've now no longer is a scarcity, and we used to be able to charge money for
smart.
intelligence.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
there's scarcity, and
Yeah.
it's no longer scarce. Intelligence is ubiquitous, and you can get it online at the click of a button. Internet was knowledge, knowledge everywhere. Now we have intelligence and something that's capable of thinking, and what that does to the job market is going to be unbelievable.
It's scary.
Unbelievably disruptive, and
Yeah.
I
Very
don't know.
quick.
I don't know what I'd want to do myself, let alone what my kids should do. Are they going to have jobs? Should they? Are we going to have universal basic income? How's it going to work? The whole world's going to be completely different. And
so you're possibly more on the pessimistic side.
I don't think it's pessimistic, but I think we're in a
realistic.
shift. Like we're at the
So
We have
precipice.
to adapt. Surely.
Yeah, and I think we're a little bit out of tricks.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? It's just like, oh, but the humans can do this. It's like, I think you're running out of tricks. Like,
Yeah.
what else have we got? Again, what else have we got? I don't know.
Plumbing,
Plumbing. Yeah.
gardening, hairdressers.
With people, do something with people. I think.
Be more human.
Yeah. We're all going to be podcasters.
Yeah. What's your interest?
What are you passionate about?
What am I passionate about?
Deeply passionate about.
Don't say money, please.
Making money.
Don't say making money.
sounds like
How did you know? I was going to say
I know
that.
you. No.
Would Making
Would you
money.
be like Scrooge McDuck if you could just be in one of those big counting parlours,
100%.
swimming in your own money? And you know what? Someone like that would probably drown in their own money, and then they'd be like, "We're not saving you. I'm drowning. I'm drowning. Somebody come
You
save
know what it
me."
is? It's about finding ways of making money. Sometimes it's not about the amount of money that you make. It's just like there's always obstacles. There is always like new ideas. I think it's just making my mind think of what else can I do? I think Connor is about contributing. Me is about how much more
can I hustle?
can I
How
take?
can I
How
hustle?
can I take?
How can I scheme?
How much can I get from Connor?
A little government
Connor's not
contract.
working hard enough. No, I think I was reflecting a couple of days ago, and it was about, I don't think it's the chase that I enjoy. It's the chase of, or it's like a puzzle to me. It's just, okay, what else can I do?
Is the money tied to something else? Because as I've got a bit older, I am starting to enjoy the process of trying to work out how to build wealth for myself and for my future family. But it's kind of like, it's like this collective responsibility that I have to do for my family. I need to be able to provide, and it's like this. It's different to money. When you say money, I've never thought of, I just love money. But now more than ever, I know what
the value of
it and how to do it.
Everything you've been doing in terms of even working towards a PhD is process driven, and you sound like a process driven individual.
Yeah.
So if you give you the process, if you like it, you're gonna go for it.
Yeah.
It's the end result don't actually matter.
But with making money, you don't know what the end result's going to be. I wake up tomorrow and have nothing tomorrow. So I think it's the chase to keep it, and to keep finding a way to. It all starts about providing for my family, and then it just became I suppose obsession of it. I think I've given
Not an addiction.
I was going to say addiction, but I think it's obsessed. I get obsessed with things, and I want to get what I want. No, it doesn't mean in material matters. If whether it's something or someone, if I want something, I'm going to go after it.
I want it. Interesting.
So that's going to be a great podcast.
I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you want to follow us for more content, please like, share and subscribe.